All right, welcome to August 16th, another episode of Stand Tall. We've got a bunch of verses from The Art of War because the translation also jumbles a bunch into one. But we are continuing with terrain right now, verse 14. Now, an army is exposed to six calamities, not arising from natural causes, but from faults for which the general is responsible. These are flight, insubordination, collapse, ruin, disorganization, and rout. Verse 15, other conditions being equal, if one force is hurled against another 10 times its size, the result will be the flight of the former. So the smaller one will flee. When the common soldiers are too strong and their officers too weak, the result is insubordination. When the officers are too strong and the common soldiers too weak, the result is collapse. When the higher officers are angry and insubordinate, and on meeting the enemy, they give battle on their own account from a feeling of resentment, before the commander in chief can tell whether or not he is in position to fight, the result is ruin. When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties assigned to officers and men, and the ranks are formed in a slovenly, haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. When a general, unable to estimate the enemy's strength, allows an inferior force to engage a larger one, or hurls a weak detachment against a powerful one, and neglects to place picked soldiers in front of the rank, the result must be a rout. So that, and then it concludes with 20. These are six ways of courting defeat, which must be carefully noted by the general who has attained a responsible post. So that is a lot to say, different things and different outcomes that could happen. And I think that in general, if we examined each one of those one by one, we could essentially put our managers and supervisors and higher order self, in that category of, I mean, battling with your own ego if you don't stay calm and rational, but also just, you know, as far as troops and strategy as a whole organization is concerned, it's just something to be aware of. Like if your officers are insubordinate or they have soldiers that are better capable, you got to make sure you're putting the right people in the right position. So let's go over to the alternate translation where they've grouped them together and truncated them quite a bit. So among military forces, there are those who rush, those who tarry, those who fall, those who crumble, those who riot, and those who get beaten. Rout. These are not natural disasters, but faults of the general. Those who have equal momentum but strike 10 with one are in a rush. Those whose soldiers are strong but whose officers are weak tarry. Those whose officers are strong but whose soldiers are weak fall. When colonels are angry and obstreperous and fight on their own out of spite when they meet opponents, and these generals do not know their abilities, they crumble. Zhang Yu says, generally speaking, the entire military leadership has to be one of mind. All of the military forces have to cooperate in order to be able to defeat opponents. Your organization has to be cohesive. Your thought process has to be cohesive. Your plan of attack has to be cohesive. When the generals are weak and lack authority, instructions are not clear. This is the next, following the next reflection to finish out all of those. Master Sun said, when the generals are weak and lack authority, instructions are not clear, officers and soldiers lack consistency, and they form battle lines every which way. This is riot. When the generals cannot assess opponents, clash with much greater numbers or more powerful forces, and do not sort out the levels of skill among their own troops, these are the ones who get beaten. So if you're not organized, if you're not putting the right people in the right place, it's just gonna be either a fire drill or a riot and just crazy stuff going on all over the place, or you're gonna get beaten because you're not organized. And so these are all good things to be aware of. And so GLN says on that, if you employ soldiers without sorting out the skilled and unskilled, the brave and the timid, you are bringing defeat on yourself. If you don't do what is your duty and what's responsible to you in your position of leadership, just like Gary Vee says, at the end of the day, these are six ways to defeat. Understanding this is the ultimate responsibility of the generals. They must be examined. Jin Hao says, first is not assessing numbers. Second is lack of clear system of punishments and rewards. Third is failure in training. Fourth is irrational overexcitement. Fifth is ineffectiveness of law and order. And sixth is failure to choose the strong and resolute. Zhang Yu just says these are ways to certain defeat. Thank you, Zhang Yu. I love it. But you guys, you get the idea. I'm not going to spend much longer on that. That's one of the more long-winded reflections from the Art of War, and I think it just has to do with the way that it's being written. So we're having to cover multiple verses. But moving on to August 16th in the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Give these guys a checking out, and pick up a copy of this and many of the other ones out there. In fact, I got this one now by Ryan Holiday called Perennial Seller. I can't wait to dig into it, but I'm finishing up another book right now called My Electrician Drives a Porsche. Very good read as far as investment strategy is concerned. So August 16th, with a reflection from Marcus Aurelius, anything can be an advantage. Just as the nature of rational things has given to each person their rational powers, so it also gives us this power. Just as nature turns to its own purpose any obstacle or any opposition, sets its place in the destined order and co-opts it. So every rational person can convert any obstacle into the raw material for their own purpose. God, I love that. I knocked something over. I don't know what it was. Oh my Lord. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 8.35. That is beautiful. No matter what the purpose is, like whatever it is, there's a purpose for it. Okay. At 5 feet 3 inches tall. Okay, before I start that, let's just take that and just transpose that onto the art of war. Just as nature turns to its own purpose any obstacle or opposition, sets its place in the destined order and co-opts it. So every rational person can convert any object into the. So if everything's there for a reason, everything happens for a reason, maybe ish, but the reason that it's there is for you to gain some purpose for whatever it is, whether it's a decision making thing, just process wise, all of that. And then when you co-opt that using that word with the art of war, and especially with the terrain and understanding like the 6 ways of defeat, the what we studied a couple of episodes ago about, the general making these six or seven like vices, if you were, the 5 dangerous traits, and then just starting out with on terrain, the easily passable versus disadvantage and advantageous standoff terrain, just knowing the different kinds of terrain, no matter what the terrain, no matter what the obstacle of the situation, of the battle, of the environment that we're in, everything can be had for a purpose, and everything can be an obstacle, or it doesn't have to necessarily be an obstacle. It could, but you know what I mean, like if there is some difficulty around it, it's only to make you better, just even so, even if it's just by a little bit. And just being, aware, right, of all of these things, and just trying to, like, these are the 5 faults, and like these are the five or six different situations to consider based around terrain. And then like if you're, fighting on terrain, and then this happens within your army and the organization and the structure, it can all fall apart. So let's move on. At 5 feet 3 inches tall, Muggsy Bogues was the shortest player ever to play professional basketball. Throughout his career, he was snickered at, underestimated, and counted out. But Bogues succeeded by turning his height into the very thing that made him nationally known. Some people looked at his size as a curse, but he saw it as a blessing. He found the advantages contained within it. In fact, on the court, small size has many advantages: speed and quickness, the ability to steal the ball from unsuspecting and significantly taller players, to say nothing of the fact that players just plain underestimated him. Could this approach not be useful in your life? What things do you think you've been holding back that, in fact, can be a hidden source of strength? That makes me reflect on, more or less, imposter syndrome. But I think what we're holding back is just our ability to know when to hold back, maybe, to analyze the different situations, the different terrains, the different maneuvers, and the different strategies, And I see words like unsuspecting, and then the advantages, and then just taking advantage of speed and quickness. Unsuspecting, steal the ball unsuspectingly because, he was underestimated. These are all concepts and words that you find frequently used in the art of war based upon, different tenets. And so I think it just goes to show that marrying these two and co-opting these two together can realize in us the very chapter title for the day, the day's title. Anything can be an advantage. And so, just because he was small, he found the advantages in that. Just like in the art of war, if he talks about if you're a small army versus a big army, and the different strategies and different tactics and different tenets and basically different principles. And so these principles can be our hidden source of strength in dark times. So thank you. Keep standing tall. I feel good about that one. Sorry, I don't know why I said thank you. But yes, that one was good. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Please leave your comments. Let me know what you took away and what your reflections are. And we'll see you guys on the next one.